You don't have to fix your entire life tonight, but you can begin by standing up straight with your shoulders back, not just as posture, but as a signal, a message to your nervous system, a quiet act of saying, I'm here, I exist, and I will meet what comes. 12 Rules for Life is not just a book of advice, it's a challenge, a blueprint, a mirror. It doesn't speak in gentle affirmations or sweet promises. Instead, it offers clarity in the form of responsibility. Because life, as the book reminds us, is suffering. It's pain, it's chaos, it's unexpected illness and unpaid bills and heartbreak that arrives without warning. But within that storm, there's meaning, and that meaning isn't handed to you. You build it step by step with truth, effort, and discipline. The first rule, stand up straight with your shoulders back, isn't about arrogance, it's about order. It draws from biology, evolution, even the posture of lobsters, creatures who, when defeated, collapse inward, and when victorious, stretch tall, full of chemical confidence. Humans aren't so different. When you shrink, you tell your body to prepare for defeat. When you carry yourself with dignity, even when you feel broken, you tell your brain that survival is possible. That's the beginning of transformation, not comfort, but courage. And so the journey begins. But before we can take that first step, we must ask, what's worth walking toward? That's where the next rule waits a reminder to treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Because most of us offer more kindness to strangers than to ourselves. We forget appointments, break promises, speak harshly to the mirror. But when you shift your role from critic to caretaker, something changes. You begin to feed your body. You begin to protect your future. You begin to tell yourself, I matter. Not in a loud, performative way, but in a quiet, consistent one. This isn't self-love as indulgence. It's self-respect as maintenance. And in a world of chaos, self-respect becomes your anchor. The chaos, of course, is everywhere. Inside your home, inside your head. So the book gives you Rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you. It sounds simple, but it's not. Because sometimes we confuse loyalty with obligation. We keep people close who feed our weakness, who resent our growth. But growth is sacred, and it's hard enough on its own. So choose your circle like you choose your future, intentionally. Tonight, as you breathe slowly and settle in, this is where we begin, not by fixing the world, but by making a small pact with ourselves, to walk forward, to speak gently, to hold ourselves upright, even in uncertainty. You don't need to understand everything. You just need to face the truth and take the next honest step. There's a story we all tell ourselves that will start tomorrow, that when things calm down, will change, that once we're free from the noise, the mess, the stress, we'll finally do what we need to do. But life rarely calms down, and waiting for silence in a noisy world only delays the life we could be living. That's why the next rule is simple but hard. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. In a world of infinite scrolling and endless measurement, it's easy to feel small. We see perfect lives and polished feeds, but growth isn't a race. It's a rhythm, and your only competition is the version of you from yesterday. Were you more honest today? Did you say no when you meant it? Did you show up even a little more than before? That's progress, and progress compounds, just like failure. That's why Rule 5 exists. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. It's not about control, it's about care. It's a reminder that boundaries are a form of love. That structure builds safety, and the same is true with ourselves. Many of us are living in houses with no rules. We let the worst parts of us run free, the lazy part, the bitter part, the fearful part. But when you begin to parent yourself, to become your own authority, something shifts. You create order, and order gives you ground to stand on. Of course, we're all flawed. So the next rule is a gentle one. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. This isn't about perfectionism, it's about alignment. Because it's easy to rage against the world's injustice, harder to clean your room, easier to blame others, harder to make your bed. But change doesn't begin out there. It begins in the quiet corners of your life, in the drawer you've avoided, in the conversation you've put off, in the apology you owe not to others, but to yourself. That's how you start to earn your own trust, not with declarations, but with daily order. When you begin to take care of the small things, the big things become possible. And when life feels heavy, when the injustice, the sorrow, the pain of living feels too much, the next rule speaks softly. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Because shortcuts might give you relief, but only meaning will give you peace. And meaning, as the book reminds us, doesn't come from doing what's easy. It comes from doing what's right, even when no one sees, even when no one claps, even when it's quiet, slow, and invisible. So tonight, as you drift further into rest, know this: you don't have to fix everything. You just have to start. And trust that discipline, repeated with love, becomes direction, and direction held with truth becomes meaning. There's a moment in every person's life when silence starts to feel like betrayal. Not betrayal of others, but of yourself. When you hold back what needs to be said just to keep the peace. When you nod along, even though your soul quietly screams no. That's why Rule 8 matters so much. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie, not just to others, but to yourself. Because lies don't just damage relationships, they damage reality. Each time you tell a lie, a part of you fractures, and over time you forget who you really are, because the story you're living isn't yours anymore. Truth is hard. It's inconvenient. It can cost you relationships, comfort, and certainty, but it will always give you something back: integrity. And integrity is peace. Of course, telling the truth doesn't mean shouting. It doesn't mean arguing. Sometimes it means listening. And that's Rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. It's a quiet kind of strength to sit, to open your ears, and to withhold your opinion long enough to truly hear. We live in a culture of reaction where everyone is speaking and no one is understanding. But deep change starts when someone feels heard. And sometimes that someone is you. Listen to your thoughts, to your body, to your dreams, to the quiet tension you carry in your shoulders. That's where the truth is, in the stillness. And yet, even when you speak the truth, even when you listen, life still hurts. So Rule 10 appears like a lighthouse. Be precise in your speech, because when the storm comes, vague words won't protect you. Generalized pain becomes generalized suffering. But specific words bring light to darkness. Don't say, "I'm overwhelmed." Say, "I'm afraid of failing at work." Don't say, "Everything is wrong." Say, "I feel alone and I don't know how to ask for help." The more specific you are, the more manageable life becomes. Because what we can name, we can face. And what we can face, we can change. But what about chaos? What about the days that fall apart? What about when your life becomes unbearable? That's where Rule 11 steps in like a whisper. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. It sounds strange until you understand what it's really about: resilience, danger, and the necessity of challenge. Life is suffering, and if we remove all risk, we remove all growth. If we protect ourselves from everything, we protect ourselves from becoming strong. Children need to fall. Adults need to fail. Because in falling, you learn how to get up. And in getting up, you become someone capable of carrying more, not just for yourself, but for others. So tonight, as you sink deeper into stillness, remember, you don't need a perfect life. You need a truthful one. And strength is built not in comfort, but in clarity, compassion, and the courage to speak anyway. Imagine a world where everyone refuses responsibility, where no one cleaned the mess, no one fed the hungry, no one picked up what was broken. That world would collapse. And in many ways, parts of ours already have. That's why the final rule, Rule 12, might be the most profound. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. At first, it sounds simple, but it's not about cats. It's about noticing beauty in the middle of unbearable pain. It's about pausing even as you grieve to witness something fleeting and good, because life is suffering, and we carry it sometimes willingly, sometimes not. Loss, disappointment, injustice, aging. But within all of that, there are still moments that ask to be seen. A cup of tea, a bird singing through an open window, the way light pours across a room at sunset, the warmth of a blanket, a small animal crossing your path without fear. This rule doesn't say run from pain. It says look around you while you're enduring it. Because if you can find one beautiful thing, just one, the weight becomes more bearable. This final lesson weaves together everything the book has built so far. Stand up straight. Tell the truth. Keep your space in order. Choose meaning over comfort. And when it's too much, pause. Feel the pain, but don't miss the beauty. Because that's what gives suffering its shape. Not the intensity, but the contrast. It's not just darkness, it's light, flickering, even in the darkest rooms. And so, as this reflection comes to an end, you might find yourself sitting a little taller, breathing a little slower,